roses too, I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see trees of green, red roses too, I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Today we join here to honour the life and legacy of Gwennyth Patricia Evans, or known to you most as Gwen. My name is Nikki Boys, and I would like to welcome those present and also those joining via live stream. Funeral services are an important part of the grieving process. Funerals allow us to pause and come together to reflect on the life that has been lived. In our grief, we pay for the privilege of having known and loved Gwen in good times and bad. Gwen, as you will hear, was calm, quiet, and a caring lady. She worked hard to provide for her children and ensured they never went without. She was happy, cheerful, and she loved having a laugh with her boys. Today we have the privilege of hearing from someone who shared a unique bond with Gwen. Her son Paul has chosen to step forward to share the eulogy, allowing us to gain insight into the profound impact that Gwen had on their lives. As we listen to Paul's words, let us remember the love, laughter, and cherished memories that defined their relationship. Paul, would you like to come forward?
Thanks, Nikki. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, good afternoon. Off to a good start. Good to see a lot of familiar faces here, and really appreciate the effort that it's taken for everyone to be here. I'll send a cheerio to all the family and friends watching at home. We've decided to make a slight change today. Your calendar might say today is Wednesday, but we're going to change that to Gwen's-Day. So, Mum was born on the 16th of August 1939 at the Norseman Hospital to parents Patrick and Winifred Hennessy. Her mum Winifred would later become more commonly known to us as Sally, who some 29 years earlier was also born at the Norseman Hospital. Mum was one of 3 kids, with brother Mel and sister Anne joining her in the following years. Her dad worked at the mine in Norseman, apart from a period where he served fighting the war in Papua New Guinea. Mum attended Norseman School, and in 1954, at the age of 15, she passed the junior certificate exam with subjects in commercial methods and bookkeeping, arithmetic and algebra, physiology and hygiene, and home science and history. Upon finishing school, she worked in a haberdashery shop until the age of 17 when she left Norseman. She went to Cunderton where she worked in the general store, which was owned by a gentleman by the name of Vic Halbert. Mum also worked at the Halbert household, helping to look after a relative of the Halberts who was unwell. At the time, Vic Halbert owned most of Cunderton, which included the car dealership. One of Mum's favourite jobs was driving new vehicles to various surrounding towns for the local field days. After 4 years in Cunderton, Mum moved to Perth and started work at an electrical store in London Court. She left that job after a short period and started doing office work at a refrigeration service company called Rollies. It was here that she met fellow employee David, a refrigeration mechanic, who, a few years later, would become known as Dad. In 1961, on the 27th of May, Mum and Dad were married at Wesley Church. Not long after, they purchased a house at 28 Almerta Street in Nollamara, where they lived for the next 8 years. In 1963, they welcomed their first child, a daughter named Nicolai. 2 years later, they welcomed their second child, this time a boy named Bradley. And another 2 years later, and it's another boy. This time they decided on Paul, a name of Latin origin, with the meaning of small and humble. In 1969, the family moved to Wongan Hills, where Dad had accepted a job at the local refrigeration and electrical business as a refrigeration mechanic. Mum took on a cleaning job at the ANZ Bank and also did voluntary work at the school library covering books. In 1972, she was offered a full-time job at the library. By country standards, Wongan Hills District High School was a large school. There were up to 30 teachers working at the school in any given year. Some of the teachers were local residents in town, but the majority were teachers who had come to town for a 2-year period and then move on to a different location. So I've estimated that over the 32 years that Mum spent working at the school, she probably met around 400 or 500 teachers. I think it's fair to say that you'd struggle to find one of these teachers that doesn't have anything but kind words to say about Mum. During our school years, Mum and Dad hosted many social gatherings with the teachers in our backyard. In fact, the backyard figures prominently in so many good memories. Relatives would converge from all over the state for Christmases or birthdays. Kegs would slowly be emptied of their contents, and then the massive brick barbecue that Dad had built would provide the platform for speeches to be slurred. Laughter was always guaranteed. It was gatherings like this that were special to Mum, but sometimes things didn't go the way Mum wanted. On one such occasion, a certain brother invited a certain mate over for one of our barbecue dinners. Mum had once again spent hours in the kitchen preparing the mountain of food that was laid out on the table, ready for the hungry horde to devour. All was going well until certain mate asked certain brother to chuck him down some coleslaw. Now, the instruction could have been verbalised more specifically, and the interpretation of the task he had been asked to perform also could have been executed differently. So after receiving a handful of coleslaw in a somewhat inappropriate manner, certain mate quickly decided a swift response was needed. Unfortunately, the coleslaw was in enemy territory. He quickly armed himself with the so far untouched potato salad, which had far superior capabilities with respect to both accuracy and impact. Unfortunately, others sitting in the vicinity of the two offenders were quickly drawn into the conflict after they became victims of stray shrapnel, which in turn solicited quick responses with a range of new weapons being deployed. Now, I was fortunate enough in my childhood not to see my mum angry on too many occasions, but this certainly hadn't factored into her meticulous preparations for the evening. I still remember the look of disbelief on mum's face, and while certain mate may have made many more appearances at our house following this occasion, I can't recall him being invited for dinner again. Sorry, I'm not getting emotional, I've just got a runny nose. Suddenly it was 1979. And I was about to commence my last year of primary school. Brad was starting year 9 and Nick had been shipped off to Moora to start year 11. And Wongan Hills would soon be hit with a new influx of teachers. Now, no one can actually recall the exact date, but the people who were in the main street of Wongan Hills on this particular date all remember the bright red flash that descended on the town. When the dust settled, the culprit was revealed to be a Toyota Corolla, resplendent in fire engine red paint with a white stripe adorning the entire length of the car. The driver was later identified as Debbie Mars, although it could well have been Debbie from Mars. Debbie initially shared a house with another teacher, but soon after was living alone after a housemate moved out. In typical fashion, Mum invited Debbie to stay at our place on the weekend so she wasn't alone, and that was the start of a special friendship that continues to this day. She became our second sister. During our childhoods, Mum and Dad worked hard to provide for us. We always had a good roof over our heads, never went hungry. Cricket and footy seasons would involve road trips to neighbouring towns, the worst being the 3-hour return trip to both Tooja and Walcatcham. The shortest trip was a mere hour, with the majority being somewhere in between. Our holidays always involved driving. Usually the caravan would be towed to a beachside location, and other times we would visit family. The sleepy hamlet of Eaton was a favourite, as most of Dad's family lived there, and luckily most of them owned dinghies, so crabbing on the estuary was a popular pastime. Naturally, Perth was also visited regularly, with Mum's sister Anne always providing us with a place to crash, and a few trips to East were undertaken in Merredin, where Mum's brother Mel and his family had taken up residence. As a family, we never flew on a plane, and we never ventured outside of WA. It wasn't until our last years at school that us kids were fortunate enough to experience the wonders of flying by participating in school trips to the eastern states. But throughout her life, Mum never set foot on a plane. By the end of 1986, all of us kids have left home to pursue our careers. In 1993, Nick and her family left Newman and moved to Dongra, and the following year Brad and Mandy decided to join them in the quiet beachside location. It was around this time that Mum and Dad called an end to their 33-year marriage and went their separate ways. However, they didn't exactly go in opposite directions, as both of them also decided to buy properties in Dongra. Dad retired and moved straight away, but Mum continued to work at the school and would go to Dongra during the school holidays. At the end of 2004, after 35 years in Dongra and Wongan, Mum retired from the school and made a final trek to Dongra. Although our house was small, it had a big backyard and was the perfect place for all the family to congregate. Mum was always pottering in the garden and took special pride in her roses. It was a great place for kids to run around, while the adults kept themselves suitably hydrated under the patio. There was always a lot of fun and banter, and the volume of the banter tended to increase with one's hydration levels. In 2018, with the health declining, the move was made to Nazareth House in Geraldton. Almost immediately, a special friendship developed between Mum and a particular Nazareth staff member named Heliana, who would become known as Mum's Angel. On behalf of our family, I'd like to express our thanks to Heliana and the staff at St Michael's at Nazareth House for the care they afforded Mum during her entire stay. The past few months have been difficult for Mum, but it's certainly been comforting knowing she was in such competent and caring hands. I want to thank my sister who during this difficult time has travelled between Dongra and Geraldton every day. giving Mum comfort and support. Mum was truly blessed to have you. Brad and Mandy have always provided necessary backup, and Deb and Simon have never let a 700-kilometre return road trip deter them from being a constant support crew. Mum, you gave us a hell of a journey, but now it's your time to make your final one. Take comfort knowing that when you get there, you'll have some special family and friends lining up to greet you. Love you, Mum.
Thank you, Paul. I would now like to invite Brad forward to share his treasured memories.
Mum said when Paul was a toddler, people would say there is something wrong with him. Paul doesn't get up and talk at all. Well, today, Mum, he's made up for it, that's for sure. Family and friends who attended today, we'd like to thank you all. And the ones watching on TV, we'd like to thank you for joining us as well. Thank you to Nazi House and Heliana especially for looking after Mum. Been excellent. Runny nose as well. Right, 1994, when Dad left Wongan Hills. They split up, there was a lot of amicable arrangements made, everything was going well. Until Dad had 2 fridge trolleys. Mum said quietly to Dad, I'd like one of those fridge trolleys. Why? Why would you want one of those? Well, when I go to Dongra, I can shift my pot plants around. Oh, when you're up there, I'll come and shift the pot plants around. Anyhow, Dad in his wisdom sold the 2 trolleys off and made a reasonable profit off it. I believe that night Dad went home and said, oh, here's the money for the trolley. But David, I want the trolley, I don't want the money. Well, David actually had to go and buy his own trolley back, so which he didn't really like, but anyhow, that's how it goes. Mum was always, could see both sides of the coin and was very understanding. There was another incident where Mum and Dad would, on Friday nights, go and play canasta with Pat and Bert Chambers in Wongan Hills. It was 1979 when I was 14. They used to take the Datsun down to the drive-in and park it up, and we'd watch the movie, and then after they'd finished playing canasta or whatever, they'd come down right at the end of the movie, always on time, and drive home, because Dad had the work vehicle, Mum would drive, so that's great. Well, this night I was down there by myself in the car. Movie finished, don't know what movie it was, movie finished. Everyone's leaving, that's fine, they'll be here shortly. Well, everyone's gone in the drive-in. Everyone's totally gone in the drive-in. And next thing, the guy who runs the film is walking across. There's only one green Datsun in the drive-in. Happens to be me, and he comes up and, you all right? Yeah, I'm just waiting for Mum and Dad. Well, yeah, I could say I got a little bit annoyed with this, so the keys are in the Datsun, aren't they? So, well, I'll just save my job. So I drove the Datsun home, drove it down the back of CBH. I didn't drive down the main street. Of course, the cops would be there, wouldn't they? So drove it home, parked it perfectly in the driveway, in the carport, went inside, sat down, and next thing the work ute pulls up. So Dad comes in and, oh, g'day, how are you going? Yeah, sorry we're late. Who drove the car home? I said, I did. No, who drove the car home? Was it Nick's boyfriend at the time? No, it was me. Anyhow, Dad was getting a bit concerned and whatever. And Mum turns around and says, David, I think he's telling the truth. Well, he went right off then, and anyhow, Mum just calmed him down, and I thought, oh, well, there you go. She could understand, we're where I was coming from. So, yeah, that was an eventful evening that maybe I shouldn't have done, but anyhow, these things happen. My notes aren't as well presented as Paul's, but anyhow, that's fine. I thought if Mum was here, she'd like to thank 3 special women in the room. And one of those is Nick. Nick, Mum sometimes didn't like you, but she always loved you. Thank you for all you've done for Mum. You've been there, you've been her rock in Dongra, and when she came up here, you're forever looking after her, talking to Nazi House, and always making sure she was looked after, so thank you for that. Kerry Ann, you always asked how Mum was when you came up and saw her up here and in Dongra. You had a really special relationship with Mum. She loved talks with you. When you got married to Paul, Mum said, oh, great, there's someone to sort him out finally. And to Mandy, sorry dear, Mum never treated you well as a daughter-in-law. In her heart, you're always a daughter or second daughter. You always took care of Mum when Nick couldn't. He treated her so special, and yeah, she would like to thank you for that. Thank you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to come forward and share for Nick?
I've got a few words to say on behalf of my sister Nick. Brad, if you thought your notes weren't as well presented as mine, Google Translate couldn't translate Nick's. Last Tuesday, the 9th of May, was the day we all knew was coming and dreading. After 60 years together, my bright lighthouse ceased to shine. You gained your wings and flew off to the beautiful rose garden in heaven. You were my rock, my teacher, the best listener, the calm voice and the steady hand, with the biggest heart of gold. It had to be big because you held all of your much-loved family and friends tightly within it. Your 5 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren brought you much joy and happiness, as you did for them. I think you hold the record for the amount of stories read and games played with my gang over the years. The favourites and I were blessed to be your proud children. The favourites, of course, were Brad number 1 and Paul number 2. We have so many happy and funny memories to put a smile on our faces, and I know we will think of you often. Thankfully, you got your wish and slipped away in your sleep. I take comfort in knowing that you are resting peacefully, and it's ironic that your favourite rose was the peace rose. It was my privilege to spend the precious time we had left caring for you, something that you had done for us kids for so many years. I know you won't be far away, and I'll feel your calming hand on my shoulder, as you always have, when I need reassurance. You know how much I loved you, and you are now free to enjoy your garden, your Baileys, and hot August night. I'd like to call upon our adopted sister Debbie to come and say some words if you'd like to.
One of the best feelings in the world comes from being a friend and having a friend in return, knowing that everything you share, those joys that cross your lives, will warm and dwell in your heart forever. Gwen was my closest and dearest buddy for over 40 years. A friendship that would grow where you could do anything or nothing and still have the best of times. Dropping in at 9 p.m. to Gwen's for a hot Milo and a chat after a P&C meeting was a favourite. or watching the afternoon tennis together with a cold beer or wine from one of her pre-chilled pewter goblets was a delight. Just the two of us, no kids. Gwen loved the outback and all its colour. She would delight in the retelling of those trips made in and around Australia, or of a recently read novel with great detail and warmth. Yes, it was easy to spend time in Gwen's company and enjoy her witty sense of humour along the way. Gwen brought laughter, love, compassion and joy to my life. She was constant and gentle in all that she did, thoughtful and patient. I will be forever grateful for her support and the wisdom and knowledge she shared throughout my family's growing years. She was a mentor to me, though I didn't realise it at the time, quietly guiding me in her calm and knowing way. I admired Gwen for the love and caring way she brought up her own family, allowing and encouraging them to have fun together. Their noisy banter and amusing antics would have you in stitches of laughter if you were ever around the meal table with them. It was pure joy to be part of their family. So today, with much love, respect and sadness, I say goodbye to my precious friend. Gwen, you are special to me and will always be treasured in our families in many, many ways. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to open this space and invite anyone forward that would like to share their memories with us.
Hello. Dad, if you thought your notes were bad, I don't have any notes. I didn't know I was going to do this until I stood up. It occurred to me that no one had spoken about the impact that Grandma had to the grandkids. Whoa. Wish I'd prepared for this. Her home was always a home full of love.
She certainly was.
I just got to think of what to say. And it was a home that we always loved going to. She never complained when I'd done a terrible drawing. She always told me it was a good drawing, and it would always go on the fridge. And hang on, I've got tissues.
Yeah, you got tissues.
And she would never complain if I'd sprawled the cars all over her floor, even though you couldn't step past them without slipping on them. I remember one day she was at our house and she was looking after me because I was probably faking a sickie from school, but always had to have Grandma go over and look after us. And I blew up a balloon and I was playing the old keepy up with Grandma, and I was giving her the old lounger in Wimbledon. And I remember Dad come home at lunchtime to have some lunch, and I think Grandma was red-faced by this time and sucking wind. And I think she was down a set and I was trying to finish it off. And Dad said, how about you give Grandma a rest because she doesn't have the heart to tell you herself that she doesn't want to keep going. So, thanks, Grandma. I reckon when I buy a house, I might plant a rose bush and have it for you. Cheers.
I'm a very teary person, but just accept tears. We will. Thank you.
I'm like you.
Should be able to talk. I was a teacher for 50 years and I should be able to control my emotions. I loved Gwen. She was my confidant and best friend for 22 years in Wongan. Okay, I've said it. When I was a teacher there, end of 1970, we came to Wongan, and During 1971, we sort of wanted people to come. I looked after the library. I wasn't the librarian, but I looked after the library. And I said to the principal, we really do need to have somebody, at least half a day a week, so I didn't have to cover every book that came in, because we used to cover every book with plastic and do all the work. So we advertised, and we had a couple of people apply. And Gwen had been coming and volunteering that whole year. Every Friday afternoon she used to spend at school and other times as well in the classrooms. She helped in the library. She was just wonderful. And when the job applications came up, the principal called me and he said, we've got 2 applicants. Gwen was one of them, and there was another lady. And he asked, who would I choose? I said, Gwen knows every book in this place. She knows every child in this place. She is the person that would be so wonderful and help the children from pre-primary through to third year high school. And she got the job, and she had it. How many years was it that she had it, Brad? 32. That's wonderful. When I left after 22 years. But she was such a wonderful person. When we built our house in Wongan, up on the hill in Rogers Street, the centrepiece... Oh, am I doing that? It's my hands, is it? The centrepiece was an arched bar that served into 3 rooms. Now, I don't drink alcohol, I never have, I just couldn't acquire the taste for it. But she liked Baileys, so in the bar I put a bottle of Baileys, and on Friday afternoons she would sometimes come up and we would share a Baileys. And when you mentioned Baileys, I thought it reminded me of that. But she was a wonderful, confident person. She was a confidant person, and she just loved everybody. And nobody, I've never heard anybody say any bad word about her. If a kid couldn't find a book, we'd order it. She'd say, this child needs this book. When I had to each year buy new books for the library from the selected list that the Education Department sent to us, I got the lists, I selected, and then I got her to check them. And then, of course, when they came in, she dealt with them. When I took leave to have our second child, Yvette, there was a French teacher, because I used to teach French. A French teacher came along, and the principal said, there are too many kids, can you come along and listen to the kids read while they do other lessons? So I said, well, I've got my baby. He said, I'll bring the baby. Gwen will look after the baby, because the lessons were done in the library, in the room in the library. Okay, Gwen, would you look after Yvette while I'm taking the French lesson? Yeah, that was fine the first time, until the baby started to cry and needed a feed, and I was breastfeeding. You know what she said? Sit in the corner on the floor and breastfeed the baby, then go back and do the lessons. And I did that like week after week after week. Anyway, she was just so wonderful. A truly wonderful friend, a wonderful mother, wife, grandmother. And you are all so lucky. And love you, Gwen. God bless you.
Thank you. We'll now take a moment to watch the photo tribute prepared by Mandy. Thank you.
never before. And I wish you all the love in the world, but most of all, I wish it from myself. And the songbirds keep singing like they know the score. And I love you, I love you, I love you like never before. Like never before. Like never before.
LA is fine, the sun shines most of the time, and the feeling is laid back. Palm trees grow and rents are low, but you know, keep thinking about making my way back. Well, I'm New York City born and raised, but nowadays I'm lost between two shores. LA is fine, but it ain't home. New York's home, but it ain't mine no more. I am myself to no one there, and no one heard at all, not even the chair. I cried. I am, said I, and I am lost, and I can't even say why. Leaving me lonely still. Did you ever read about a frog who dreamed of being a king and then became one? Well, except for the names and a few other changes, if you talk about me, the story's the same one. But I got an emptiness deep inside that I've tried, but it won't let me go. And I'm not a man who likes to swear, but I never cared for the sound of being alone. I am myself to no one there, and no one heard at all, not even the chair. I cried. I am, said I, and I am lost, and I can't even say why. I am myself. I am, I cried. I am.
Lots of special memories. Chrysanthemums, also referred to as mums, are the traditional Mother's Day flower in Australia. Unfortunately, Gwen passed before Mother's Day, so Nikki, Brad and Paul thought it would be fitting for everyone to have the opportunity to place a Chrissy on Gwen's coffin as you say your own personal goodbyes. Following Gwen's family, you are invited to come forward and then please return to your seats for the conclusion of the service.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. Sail on, silver girl, sail on by. Your time has come to shine. All your dreams are on their way. See how they shine.
We bring you this rose, all wet with morning dew. When we saw it on the ground, it reminded us of you. One petal is for the love you gave us every day. One petal is for the sweet and kind words you would say. One is for the sacrifices you made for us. One petal is for all the hugs and kisses you gave so free. You are worth more than words can ever say. We wish you goodbye. Until another day, our beautiful mum. As we come to the end of Gwen's service, please stand if you are able. It is time for us to say our final goodbye to Gwen. We have shared memories, reflected on her life, and celebrated her legacy. Now it is time to commit her body to the earth and acknowledge the truth that she is no longer with us in the physical sense. But we take solace in the belief that Gwen has now transcended to a higher place where she will be reunited with loved ones who have gone before her. It is a place where there is no pain or suffering, only peace and love. We now commit her body to the earth, knowing that she will continue to live on in the memories of those who loved her. As we say goodbye, we do so with gratitude for the time we shared with her and the impact she made on your lives. We take comfort that Gwen lived her life full of love, kindness, and generosity. Her warmth and compassion were evident to all who had the pleasure of crossing her path. Today we remember her, not only for her moments we shared with her, but also the memories that will live on in our hearts forever. Gwennyth Patricia Evans, may you rest peacefully.
I know it's a bad idea, but how can I help myself? Been inside for most this year, and I thought a few drinks, they might help. It's been a while, my dear, dealing with the cards life dealt. I'm still holding back these tears, well, my friends are somewhere else. I pictured this year a little bit different. When it hit February, a step in the bar, it hit me so hard. Oh, how can it be this heavy? Every song reminds me you're gone, and I feel the lump form in my throat, 'cause I'm here alone, just dancing with my eyes closed. 'Cause everywhere I look, I still see you. And time is moving so slow, and I don't know what else that I can do. So I'll keep dancing with my closed. So I'll keep dancing with my delusion is here again, and I think you'll come home soon. But what brings me right back in? Then it's only me that's in this room. I guess I could just pretend the colors are more than blue, but I lost more than my friend. I can't help but missing you. I pictured this month a little bit different. No one is ever ready, and when it unfolds, you get in a hole. Oh, how can it be this heavy? Everything changes, nothing's the same, except the truth is now you're gone, and life just goes on. So I'm dancing with my eyes closed, 'cause everywhere I look, I still see you. And time is moving so slow, and I don't know what else that I can do. So I'll keep dancing with my closed. So I'll keep dancing with my closed. Oh, I keep dancing with my. They're shutting the bar, they're cleaning the floor, and everyone is already home, but I'm on my own, still dancing with my eyes.